So I was looking at the topics to cover for breakfast. This video North Korea is the only country in the world today.
Milwaukee Brewers franchise isn't known to be a very historical thing.
North Korea is the only country in the world today where it's illegal for any citizen living there to leave without receiving prior permission from the state. Doing so is legally considered to be treason by the North Korean government. And if you attempt to do so and are caught, you may be punished with a lengthy prison sentence in a hard labor camp or even sentenced to execution. Even moving about within North Korea's territory is difficult and strictly regulated by the state, as you need official documentation and permits just to legally move from one internal province of the country to another. North Korea is almost universally regarded by just about every organization in the world to have the worst human rights record on the planet, with no contemporary parallel. All men in the country are forced into serving a minimum of 10 years in the North Korean army. Free speech is non-existent, and the only media providers are all owned by the state. As recently as 2017, Amnesty International estimated there were around 200,000 political prisoners being held in camps all across the country, who were often subjected to slave labor, torture, and summary execution. Not to even mention all of the other prisoners in the country for non-political related crimes. One can be sentenced to a life in prison in North Korea for merely being related to someone who actually committed a crime, such as an infamous case that only recently came to light by way of the U.S. State Department of a 2-year-old child who was sentenced to life in prison back in 2009 after his parents were caught by the authorities with a Bible in their possession, a piece of foreign contraband that had been illegally smuggled into the country. All foreign media and content from the outside world has been strictly outlawed within North Korea for decades, with various penalties being dealt out to anyone caught smuggling such content and distributing it or consuming it, up to and including life in prison and death. North Korea is one of only 4 countries remaining in the world that routinely carries out public execution of prisoners, the only others being Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Somalia. It also has historically been extremely difficult for any foreigners to get permission to get into the country, and whenever they have been allowed in, they are permanently placed under intense levels of surveillance the entire time they are within, and only taken on highly curated tours where they are only shown what the regime wants to be shared. Sometimes foreigners who visit are even killed when they run astray of any number of the regime's arbitrary laws, like Otto Warmbier, an American man who was visiting North Korea as a tourist back in 2016, who was arrested after allegedly attempting to steal a propaganda poster from the wall of his hotel, a crime for which he was later sentenced to 15 years of hard labor in a prison camp. He was returned to the United States a little over a year later in a vegetative state with little explanation. Died only days later. As a result of all of this, North Korea has long been regarded as the most isolated and secretive country that exists in the contemporary world, and the most difficult country to get anything or anyone into or out from. Escaping out of the country or smuggling illicit material into the country has always been difficult for a wide variety of reasons, but it all starts with North Korea's rather unique geography. For many decades, the Kim dynasty in the country have worked tirelessly to essentially transform North Korea into a de facto island, completely separated and removed from the rest of the outside world. Their east and their west, this was already granted by geography in the form of the Sea of Japan and the Yellow Sea. Escaping out of the country across either of these seas is incredibly challenging, because boats are very hard to come by within the country, and the North Korean Navy maintains routine patrols all along the coasts, especially near to North Korea's southernmost territories next door to South Korea. South Korea itself, obviously, is the #1 location that North Korean defectors attempt their escapes to, mostly because not only is South Korea a vastly wealthier and more developed country, but the South Korean government also officially considers that all of the native Koreans of the entire Korean peninsula are her own citizens, including all of North Korea's 25 million residents. Any North Korean who can make their way into South Korea is automatically considered a South Korean citizen, and that alone provides an enormous incentive to leave. Of all the North Korean defectors who successfully made it out of the country since the 1990s, 34,000 of them have found their way down to South Korea, compared to only around 1,000 in Europe and only around 200 in the United States. But getting to South Korea directly has almost always been impossible because of the existence of the Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ, that runs across the entire length of the southern border from coast to coast. Contrary to how its name appears, this is the most heavily militarized border anywhere in the world, through which hardly anything at all is ever allowed to pass. There are tens of thousands of troops on both sides who directly patrol the numerous lines of walls, fortifications, and barbed wire, in addition to around 2 million landmines. The North Korean Border Patrol has orders to shoot anyone who attempts to cross. There are 750,000 North Korean soldiers deployed within 100 kilometers of the border in the north, and another 450,000 South Korean soldiers, plus 20,000 American soldiers deployed within 100 kilometers of the border to the south. Breaking through this extremely imposing obstacle to get directly into South Korea has always been very dangerous and risky, which is why very few have ever successfully managed to do it. Historically, the comparatively easier but still extremely difficult path to escape out of North Korea was by attempting a run across the northern border into either China or Russia. At the same time, this was also historically the easiest border to smuggle illicit contraband into North Korea from as well. You see, North Korea maintains an official military alliance with China, and while relations have often still been strained between the two, they're nothing like the outright hostility seen on North Korea's southern border. As a result, there is little need for North Korea to keep hundreds of thousands of soldiers deployed here, because the risk of an invasion coming from China is fairly minimal. Simultaneously, North Korea's border with Russia is very tiny, at only about 17 kilometers, and North Korea's relations with Russia are also similarly warm, so there's never really been a big need to park soldiers along the small border here to deter a potential Russian invasion. Moreover, the North Korean border with China is massive. It stretches and winds for more than 1,300 kilometers as it generally follows the Yalu and Tumen rivers, through rugged mountains and forests that are mostly very sparsely populated. Thus, for most of North Korea's history, this long border in the north with China has been lightly patrolled and guarded, so it has been fairly porous and relatively easy to smuggle both goods and people across. This was especially true during the winter months when the Yalu and Tumen rivers freeze over, enabling defectors and smugglers alike to simply walk across them, or during the summer months when the river's depths are at their lowest, enabling defectors and smugglers to just easily wade across them. But the biggest problem with this route for defectors was that once they crossed the border into either China or Russia, they still weren't exactly safe. Both Russia and China have extradition agreements in place with the North Korean government. meaning that any North Korean defectors they catch will be treated as illegal immigrants rather than as refugees, deported back to North Korea, where they will face immediate imprisonment and potentially even execution. That's why for nearly every defector who did escape across the border into China or Russia, the goal wasn't to stay there, but to eventually make their way into a neighboring safe country, which there are precious few of. Myanmar and Laos were always out because, just like China and Russia, they will immediately deport any North Korean defector they catch in their territories right back to North Korea. For the most part, that only left Mongolia, Thailand, or Vietnam as nearby safe countries the defectors could flee towards because, since South Korea considers all North Koreans to be their own citizens as well, these three countries will deport any North Korean defectors they catch to South Korea instead. So the plan for defectors was to always cross the porous mountainous border into China, and then, eventually, gradually, make their ways to Mongolia, Thailand, or Vietnam, where they would then immediately surrender to the local authorities there and get deported on a plane to safety and a new life in South Korea. Defections out of North Korea only truly began to spike, however, in the 1990s after the Soviet Union collapsed at the end of 1991, which had been the primary financial supporter of the North Korean regime. Then, with its primary financial benefactor and supporter gone, and heavy financial sanctions placed upon it by the United States, Japan, and South Korea, North Korea suddenly found its economy and agriculture unsustainable. With very little money and hardly any ability to import farming equipment or fertilizer, with food imports from the Soviet Union gone, with exacerbating droughts and floods, and with a base of less than 20% of their land even being considered arable in the first place, North Korea couldn't acquire enough food to sustain its entire population. The worst famine in the country's entire history followed. Because of the North Korean government's incredible levels of secrecy, nobody really knows exactly how bad the famine during the 1990s was, but estimates range from about 300,000 deaths on the lower end to as many as 3.5 million on the higher end, across only 4 years between 1994 and 1998. With masses of people desperate to escape from the famine, defections out of North Korea consequently began to spike. And, sensing an opportunity to make some money, a class of entrepreneurial smugglers in North Korea arose as well, who began smuggling in much-needed items like food and medicine, but also illicit contraband like Western and South Korean movies, TV shows, and books. By the early 2000s, thousands of North Koreans were successfully defecting out of the country every single year. The vast majority of them were escaping across the northern border into China, making their way eventually to Thailand, Vietnam, or Mongolia, and getting themselves deported from there to South Korea. The number of defectors steadily continued increasing year after year long after the Great Famine had ended, until they reached a peak in 2009, when a total of 2,914 North Koreans successfully managed to find their ways down into South Korea, the largest number to ever defect in a single year since the conclusion of the Korean War back in the 1950s. Defections out of the country remained high in both 2010 and 2011, with over 2,000 taking place each of those years. Then, at the very end of 2011, something different happened. The man who had ruled North Korea as the supreme leader ever since 1994 suddenly died in December, and his son, Kim Jong-un, succeeded him. And ever since taking power back then at the end of 2011, Kim Jong-un has worked tirelessly to crack down on both defections and smuggling within his kingdom. Signal jammers began getting installed all across the northern frontiers and remote mountain passes to block out foreign cell and satellite signals. Intelligence monitoring of phone calls in the northern areas were increased, while more border fences were being built up and patrols increased. Simultaneously, things were changing in both Russia and China as well. In 2014, Russia signed an agreement with North Korea that they would begin deporting any defectors they caught in the country back, essentially eliminating Russia as a viable country for would-be defectors to escape into once and for all. Meanwhile, China began increasingly developing its own massive surveillance state apparatuses after the passing of the PRC cybersecurity law in 2016. Within just 4 years from then, by 2020, the Chinese had likely increased the number of their surveillance cameras operating all across the country to more than 620 million, more than 12 times as many surveillance cameras operating across the United States, combined with increasingly rigorous monitoring of internet and cell services, since China has always treated all North Korean defectors as illegal immigrants. These sweeping changes to surveillance in China made it far easier for the Chinese authorities to detect them in the country, while they were trying to make it across to the safer countries in Thailand, Vietnam, and Mongolia, and made their journeys significantly more dangerous and risky than they had ever been before. To compensate for the increased levels of risk that were developing, brokers and human traffickers within China who often helped North Korean defectors state began charging more and more money to do so. Back in 2007, the average price that a broker in China would charge to help a North Korean defector escape to Thailand or Vietnam was around $2,000. A lot of money for the average North Korean, but still theoretically doable. But by 2012, shortly after Kim Jong-un took power, the price had doubled to around $4,000. By 2015, the price the brokers were charging had doubled again to about $8,000. And by 2017, the prices were anywhere between $13,000 and $16,000 per each defector. Because most North Koreans earn less than $2,000 a year, saving up those kinds of sums to escape would take them years or even decades of scraping by to do. So it became no longer realistic for most to hire a broker to help them unless they already had family members who had escaped before them, who could save up the money on their behalf with higher paying jobs in developed economies like South Korea. Thus, at some point in the 2010s, there became a point where the overwhelming majority of North Koreans could only escape the country if they chose to do so completely on their own, without any help from the outside, which would require them to travel on their own across the mountainous border in the north, and then somehow make it all the way through a massive country like China, with an unparalleled surveillance state, where they don't know the local language at all, in order to get towards a safe country like Mongolia, Thailand, or Vietnam, and never get caught by the the trend of people successfully escaping out of North Korea began dwindling downwards with every passing year after Kim Jong-un took power, as it became increasingly difficult for people to do so. By 2019, only a total of 1,047 North Koreans managed to get out of the country with South Korea, less than half of the numbers that had gotten out back at the beginning of the decade in 2010 and 2011. Then, beginning in 2020, the ability to escape from North Korea became even more bleak than it had been before. In January of 2020, only 2 months after the very first reported case of COVID-19 was made in China back in November, North Korea became the very first country in the world to completely shut down and seal all of its borders, citing its desire to keep the virus out of the country at all costs. Basically, all travel into and out of the country was shut down, every international flight that North Korea had was immediately canceled, and nearly all foreign trade with the outside world was halted. And at first glance, it kind of makes sense why North Korea was so paranoid so early about the virus. This is a country where it is estimated that around 42% of the population are currently considered to be malnourished, one of the highest levels of malnutrition seen anywhere in the contemporary world, and of course, malnourished people are significantly more susceptible to the negative effects caused by COVID-19 than otherwise healthy people are. North Korea would only end up reporting its first confirmed case of the virus on the 12th of May 2022, and only 3 months later in August, the regime had already self-declared its victory over eradicating it from the country, with only a very minimal 74 officially reported COVID-related deaths. The reality was almost certainly a lot worse than that. Anonymous inside doctors and sources reporting to the BBC this year claimed that about 1 in 550 people in Pyongyang actually died from COVID during that outbreak in 2022. If that source is accurate, which honestly, who knows, and if you extrapolated it out to the rest of the country, it would suggest a potential COVID-19 related death toll in North Korea of around 45,000. Orders of magnitude worse than the officially reported number of only 74. Though I suggest that that should be heavily treated with a grain of salt. But regardless, the North Korean regime was almost certainly genuinely worried about COVID-19 getting into the country. They also have clearly capitalized on the pandemic as an excuse to finally finish locking down North Korean society and fully isolating it from the rest of the outside world. In August of 2020, the regime established so-called buffer zones on their northern borders with China and Russia, while firm orders were given out to North Korean soldiers patrolling the borders to unconditionally shoot anybody on sight attempting to either enter or leave without permission. A shoot-to-kill order that evidently continues to remain in force more than 3 years later now today. Moreover, the North Korean regime seized on the excuse of protecting the country from COVID-19 to construct a series of vast new fortifications all across the borders with China and Russia. Satellite imagery has revealed hundreds of kilometers worth of newly constructed walls, fences, barbed wire, and guard posts being constructed all along North Korea's northern border since the pandemic began, all of which have
2017, 24-year-old.
Hey, do you have mattresses for people who...
This is the North Korea you know. This is the North Korea you've never seen. Stories you've never heard.
Is that a legend or did that actually happen?
Our general is really a person who heaven sent to us.
Places you've never been. People with a common enemy.
Who do you want to fight?
The fight this morning, America.
What if I told you I'm an American? You want to shoot me too?
Unprecedented access. Hidden from the world until now. Come with me to the secret state inside North Korea. North Korea. A nation holding its nuclear sword over the U.S. and its allies, threatening to strike at any time. A society in a constant state of readiness for war. Life on the inside is a mystery to most of the world. I've reported from North Korea more than a dozen times over the last few years. Each time, we open the door a little more. And see this country and its people in unexpected ways. Just like this. Yep, even in North Korea, kids love video games. For these 14 and 15-year-olds, these are not just games. This is practice for real life. Most of these boys, and a lot of girls, will spend their first years of adulthood serving in the Korean People's Army, just like their parents and grandparents before them.
What do you like about this game?
Killing the enemy.
Hitting the enemy? Who's the enemy?
Americans.
This hatred of Americans stems from the Korean War. North Korea contradicts Western historians, saying that America started the war that killed millions of civilians and divided the Korean Peninsula.
Who do you want to fight?
The fight the sworn enemy, America.
What do they teach you about Americans in school?
They forcibly invaded us, slaughtered our people, buried them alive, and killed them.
So they teach you that the Americans are the enemy and you need to shoot them to fight them?
Yes.
Here's where things get awful.
What if I told you I'm an American? You want to shoot me too?
Yes. There are good people. We'll see if you're a good person or a bad person.
I'm a good American. Don't shoot me.
No, I won't shoot.
This is the paradox of North Korea. Smiling young people, friendly, polite, even as they tell me how much they hate the United States. From their earliest years, these children are told America could attack at any time, told they must prepare for the next war. In North Korea, government minders watch our every move and restrict what we can film, even if this is what we want to see. High school students horsing around at the beach. I can't help but wonder, what do they actually know about America?
No, I just work to play sports.
Have you ever heard of Portland?
Haven't heard of it.
Have you ever seen any American movies or heard any American music?
No,
Ever heard of Facebook or Twitter or Instagram?
no, not at all.
These teens have been told Americans act and look scary.
What would you expect from an American? What would you expect an American to be like?
Big nose with a hairy chest.
Big nose and hairy chest, huh? Well, I don't have a hairy chest. You tell me, do I have a big nose?
With a nose like that, it is sort of.
Have you guys ever met an American before?
They become visibly uncomfortable when they learn I'm an American. I'm the first one they've ever met.
Well, I won't interrupt your game any longer. Thank you very much. It was nice to meet you guys.
That Next, our government miners want us to see this place, the Songdo-wan International Children's Camp in Wonsan, considered the best in North Korea. Entire school classes compete for a chance to spend 2 weeks at camp. Many of these kids have never seen anything like it. But this is something they know well.
The first thing you see when you walk into this camp, this statue. Everything here, just like everywhere else in North Korea, centers around the leaders.
These children have been taught a fierce loyalty to their nation's leaders, all members of the Kim family. Photos and statues are everywhere. Songs of praise are staples. Even at this birthday party, students sing about the leaders.
He gives us more love than even our parents.
Why do you consider your leader Kim Jong-un like your father?
He's affectionate and more caring than my own parents. He gives us more love than even our parents could give.
Che Jin-song, who just turned 14, says his own parents can't afford to give him a meal like this. Many of North Korea's 5 million children come from towns and villages where the basics, electricity, clean water, nutritious food, are not always available.
I declare I will become a true member of the Children's Union who studies better in order to repay the love of respected leader Kim Jong-un.
These young people are the future of North Korea, an entire generation brought up to worship their supreme leader. No skepticism, no dissent, no questions, only loyalty for life. Our government miners are taking us from North Korea's capital, Pyongyang, to the coastal city of Wonsan. Our 125-mile journey on this bumpy road takes almost 5 hours.
We've been driving for a couple of hours through the countryside, and we've just gotten stopped at a checkpoint. Already several minutes now, our miners are speaking with the police officer. Not sure what's happening, but doesn't seem to want to let us pass.
Travel here is restricted, and getting stopped can be nerve-wracking. But we're finally allowed to pass. It turns out the concern this time is only about our big van disturbing the roadwork ahead. Driving on, we see men and women labor in dark tunnels. Much of the North
On June 18th, 2023, Titan leaves the book.
Voyager 2 probes approach to the most distant planet in our solar system, Neptune. The background noise is composed of various internal radio and software sounds broadcasted back to Earth, along with the pictures and video of the planet. When I was much younger and saw Neptune for the first time, my first thought was that of an oceanic planet. After all, its dark blue hue and its white clouds somewhat resemble an aerial view of the Pacific Ocean, and it's even named Neptune after the Roman god of the sea. So it's easy to picture how an imaginative 5-year-old could come up with that conclusion. But of course, that's not actually what Neptune is, and the reality of it all is much scarier than what my little kid self ever could have guessed. Neptune isn't an ocean world, it's an ice giant. Far from something like the planet Hoth from Star Wars or Sarpedon from Star Trek, an ice giant is basically identical to a gas giant, with the only real differences being their size and certain elemental and chemical makeups of its chaotic and deep atmosphere, which means you have a planet with no solid surface to speak of anywhere. It's just layers upon layers of thick, cold, and increasingly darkening pressurized gas. I don't remember how young I was when I first learned about the true nature of gas and ice giants, but I remember exactly what I felt: fear. And I remember my thoughts uniformly racing with the same exclamation: space is terrifying. Even now, as a 20-year-old, gas and ice giants are planets that can easily put me on edge, even just by simply looking at a picture of one of these massive worlds. I feel an overlooming presence of intimidation. After all, they aren't given the label of giant for no reason. And for me, Jupiter is the very epitome of this feeling. If the planet Earth were to ever hypothetically careen towards and impact a planet like Jupiter, we wouldn't even be given the dignity of going out with an explosive asteroid-like collision. We would simply just be burnt up in and swallowed by Jupiter's large atmosphere. And swallowed isn't necessarily an inappropriate way to describe it either, as our planet would likely just be absorbed and coalesced into Jupiter's metallic liquid like lower layers. There'd be no evidence that our planet ever even existed. We'd just be erased from the cosmos. And touching on that subject a bit is the fact that these planets have no definable surface to speak of. This, in my mind, makes gas and ice giants the most alien worlds that can possibly exist. As strange and mysterious as worlds like Venus and Mars can be, at least they have a ground that a human could actually technically stand atop of. But here, there is no familiarity to speak of, nothing even remotely terrestrial. If you ever were to manage being caught in Jupiter's gravity to the point you ended up falling towards the planet, it'd likely be a terrifying and intensely anxious death, as you found yourself becoming engulfed in clouds for miles until the light from the sun became snuffed out, and you plummeted endlessly in darkness until the pressure became so high that your body popped like a bug in a fire. And even if you had some special sci-fi suit that let you survive in such high pressures, you'd still eventually find yourself being smothered and burned alive in a white-hot global sea of liquid metallic hydrogen. And Saturn is no different. Don't let the beauty of its rings fool you. This planet is every bit as violent and inhospitable as Jupiter. Even more so, actually, as wind speeds in Saturn's upper atmosphere can clock in at over 1,000 miles per hour. Speeds high enough to easily kill a person. In fact, storms on Saturn have been charted going so fast that they're able to race around the planet and meet their own tails before they have a chance to dissipate. And of course, these storms and global deep formations of clouds are what give our gas giants their iconic looks, and are what lend greatly to their terrifying aura. The most famous of which is Jupiter's Great Red Spot, a massive cyclonic hurricane that has been known to exist since the 17th century, but has likely existed for hundreds or even thousands of years before that, and could quite possibly be a permanent feature of the planet. A storm so large and deep that the planet Earth wouldn't even fill it. And even when looked at up close, its layers of clouds are challenging to tell apart with the unaided eye. More troubling for me, however, is the large hexagonal storm constantly raging atop Saturn's North Pole. Without saying a word, I'm going to show you a few very real close-up images of this massive storm taken years back by the Cassini space probe. This last picture in particular sends chills up my spine. It is somewhat hard for me to look at without feeling anxious. It truly feels like I'm staring into an abyss. The vortex-like layering with the many rotating cloud layers, and the seemingly almost unaffected cloud layer residing deep at its center, just illustrate the sheer mass of atmosphere that Saturn is. But as terrifying as the vast, complex, endless clouds of the gas giants can be, the inverse of them is equally as such. This is Uranus. Not Uranus, not Urectum even. Say it with me. Uranus. Possibly the most ominous appearing of all the planets in our solar system. Whereas Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune are all filled with swirls of cloud belts and pockmarked by storms, Uranus is near uniformly a teal color, with only a few visible cloud formations and its seemingly tranquil atmosphere. Its own belts only obviously visible when looking through different spectrums of light. But of course, this planet is anything but tranquil. Every bit as inhospitable as the other gas worlds, Uranus hosts a large gaseous atmosphere and intense wind speeds. And to add insult to injury, Uranus is the coldest planet in the entire solar system, with an upper atmospheric average temperature of negative 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So if intense winds and pressures don't kill you, it'll likely be an intense case of hypothermia. And finally, after Uranus, we reach the outermost planet, Neptune. Sorry, Pluto. What bothers me most about Neptune, more so than its deep blue color and darkened storms, is the sheer amount of mystery surrounding it. To give you an idea of just how remote Neptune is, the average distance between the Earth and Saturn is the average distance between Uranus and Neptune. That's about 1 billion miles worth of what is just about empty space, just to cross into a single planetary system. It's so far removed from all the other planets that it's only ever been visited once by the Voyager 2 probe, and likely won't be visited by humans again for quite some time. Even Uranus in recent years has had the privilege of being talked about in regards to probing missions, but not Neptune. And although great work has been done in regards to Neptunian exploration by the way of Voyager 2 and several space-based telescopes, Neptune still holds a great many unknowns. For me, this picture will likely always be what comes to mind when I think of Neptune. Seeing the deep blue hue of its deep atmosphere amidst the backdrop of space is akin to seeing a face in the dark at the corner of your room late at night. Unknown, foreboding, almost too unreal to comprehend. Pure and paralyzing fear. Far, far removed from the oceanic-like world that resided in the imagination of my younger self.
Old Spice Gin and Super Hydration.
It's hard for me, as someone who's only ever lived in the 21st century, to imagine a point in time where the idea of planets beyond our own solar system was actually debated upon. In fact, the knowledge of their existence is relatively new, as the first confirmation of an extrasolar planet, or exoplanet, didn't take place until 1992. Literally the same year Wolfenstein 3D came out. Prior to that, the realm of alien planets was relegated to scientific debate and the ponderings of philosophers as far back as ancient Greeks. And yet, in the mere 30 or so years we've been looking into exoplanets, we've already made numerous mind-warping discoveries that give hope to, and in some cases surpass, our most fantastic fantasies. Earth-like terrestrial worlds, some with surface water, and some twice or even three. Times as massive as our own planet. Worlds with superheated steam atmospheres. Oceanic worlds with seas possibly as deep as hundreds of miles. And worlds where the rain is potentially made from diamonds and even glass. Or, wait, glass, rain, and deep oceans? Although when it comes to exoplanets, there's little that can be definitively proven given the vast distances between us and them, we've nonetheless discovered worlds that can be described as nightmarish, even hellish. One of the first to come to mind is a planet known as Tres 2b, orbiting within the Tres 2 binary star system. Beyond the fact that the planet is likely a gas giant larger than Jupiter, which makes it terrifying enough, the planet is thought to be the darkest ever discovered. Despite being the first planet in line to orbit its host star, Tres 2b reflects less than 1% of all the light that hits its cloud tops. That's quite literally blacker than coal, and given its proximity to its star, the planet is estimated to have an average atmospheric temperature of over 2,900 degrees Fahrenheit, meaning that in between its dark black cloud tops, there's likely a deep dark red glow emanating from the planet's interior. And for all we know, it's the only thing distinguishing the planet from the backdrop of space. The best way to describe such a planet can be done in one word: hell. But even deadlier still is another hot and hellish world known as HD 189733b. Man, they should really start naming these places. A hot Jupiter world where the wind speeds can reach an estimated 8,700 miles.
You ready to eat or not?
Yeah, but
Food feeding?
I don't want to answer. I want to eat something else that's soft. And plus, there's only one point out. I want something else. But that's soft?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Come on, Stella.
I want mac and cheese because I was really thinking of that. Because remember I said I want mac and cheese at the store. And then we already went to Cleveland and it's after.
Yeah, what's that?
And that's it. Grandma!
What's that?
No, hang on! little Bob Evans. I don't win the big hammer.
Oh, I know, but I bought those for Vicky. You want another pudding?
And then, no, if it's just one, I'll take anything out of the soup.
Anything soft. Where's the pudding? Get a pudding. That's all right. I have more. You're not eating a 4-pack of pudding. Take your shirt off.
That's what.
Well, we'll see if you have any more.
Look, and you're looking at the chocolate so bad.
Now that you made a mess of.
You're gonna make a beautiful mistake.
Not tomorrow, but Sunday.
What about mocha latte?
Now that you really made a mess. Are you gonna take your shirt off so you don't make a mess? Well, a little bit. Don't just put your napkin down. Oh.
say no.
That's right. Now, my
You need to be quiet and just eat. Because you're talking and drooling all over the place.
okay, with your arms out straight.
You need to shut up and just eat. I don't think you have.
I didn't say that, you did. I don't know.
All right, here we go.
63.
Okay, so that stuff up on the dry.
You already did that?
Yeah, it feels a little more on the wood.
It was 48. Yeah. I'm pretty impressive. Whoa. Whoa.
Right.
91. We go. Come on, Albuquerque.
But you don't need to get the whole. You need to take a little bit smaller. Oh, you didn't even need it all.
Well, yeah.
See, he's only eating half of it, throwing it away. He's wasting it.
Stay there and I'll do your thing.
No. You hear what Grandma said? You don't listen, Mom. You know, William, this is why I yell at you, because you won't listen. Shut up when you start going, grrr, give yourself a break. Go wash your face. One thing, you can't breathe because you won't shut your mouth. You just keep talking. Can't wait 2 minutes. Wipe your face first.
and you've influenced so many other quarterbacks trying to do the face. Like I did it one time. We played the Saints. I kind of faked it. I remember.
Created these small plays.
Hey, nobody likes you. Your team's solid. Get a gym membership, pal. Is it? I'll bring the head. Hey, nobody likes you.
This kid was accused of vaping, and when the teacher asked for it, this is what.
Look at where William go. See you later.
Slot receiver, looks to the outside. Here's Thomas. Taylor misses him.
This oscillation happens from time to wake up to time to go to bed.
¿Qué es lo que le va a pasar?
See the officer or
Your mom's a whore.
what?
¿Qué va a evitar? Hey!
Are you blackfacing?
What?
Are you guys just African American, or is that pain?
No, we're actually students for fun. It's an inside joke that we've had for like 2 years. Yeah. No one offensive way either. It's
Oh, okay. What's the inside joke? Fill me in.
It's literally just it's just this. I did it with my sister like 2 years
So
ago.
painting your face black to pretend you're black is the inside joke?
No. We're not pretending we're black. So that's just racist.
Yeah, facts. That's way too racist.
No, it was actually pretty good.
How old are you guys?
14.
14.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come here.
BLM.
Yes. Support.
Unbelievable.
Another sling.
Hundreds of students.
Case, hope you're staying.
It's a bridge. Just goes around the corner. Walking on fighting side me. It don't go down.
It goes down.
No, it don't. Oh! Don't.
Please, Robert, please, don't do that.
Case, hope you're staying warm.
Never been arrested.
Case, hope you're staying warm. Also, you remind me of big weather. That can't be good.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I've been to prison many times.
Yes, what you...
I did my time. There were 7 attempts of murder, 7 aggravated assaults, and 7 counts of engaging in criminal activity that break my death, ma'am. And I am off parole from prison or anything like that. I am not a hard-working citizen. My kids are both out of those students, and I've been for 14 years.
That is awesome. That's the only thing I gotta give it to you, sir. Did you roll with anybody inside or outside?
I'm not a gang member. I've always rolled by myself.
You're a character, man.
I take care of myself, ma'am. So,
I'm going to be headed.
Hey, excuse me. Can you pay for my water?
I don't get offended by being.
Stretch your arms just easily to the left. 2 and Charlie, this is 6-6. Advise you hold your position. Do not press the hill. I say again, do not press the hill.
6-6, Charlie, good copy.
Hey, do you get the priority? Oh, the guy's just telling you there's that copy. What do you want me? Probably nothing. Thank you for another repair section. So you sit down, that's your own. That's your own.
Thank you just for fucking with the Lucas. Last one that crashed that out of us.
Will you let Brad?
Your story when those guys were following you.
Hello, YouTube. I'm gonna break.
To the count. Suarez deals. Will have some.
Maybe something wrong? No, he's fine. Just said his first word. Oh my God! What did he say? He called for Mama. Rosie, I think the baby's changing. Unless.
We'll give you relaxing medicine. You got fentanyl and Versed. Yes. It's okay. It's not the bad kind of fentanyl. It's the medicine kind of fentanyl. It's okay. We'll give you relaxing medicine.
Charlie Jr.
get 5 Nights at Freddy, please?
And big chocolate bar.
Hmm?
Big chocolate bar.
I'm not sure, but they're not.
Okay, man. So you got
I don't have anything.
I don't care what you do. I just need to.
No.
That's not a real chocolate bar. It's not just real.
Yes, bro. Can I get 5 Nights at Freddy, please?
Come on.
DoorDash for April.
How you doing, man? How you watch?
Guess what kind of
The horse is old? How many miles does it have? Is it a 2012 or 23? Oh, well, you know what they say. If you are stressed, this can help you.
What's that?
This is something like to ease you down. It's a long day, you know? I'm from Florida. Yeah. My community, I just left from Sprunga, and so honestly now I just want to come back, you know, and tell everybody about the technology I learned. Mm-hmm. What's her name or his name? Like Tony Stark, like the Avengers? Like Tony Stark? This will let you know. He built this.
Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
So, look.
Oh my.
The horse is old?
What state in the U.S. ends with the letter K? This is an NYPD cop, guys. Let's see if you can figure it out.
K?
Ends with the letter K, yeah.
There we go.
What state in the U.S.?
It's my house.
Bro, please.
Got a call from Ludwig the other day, and he just gave me a really nice compliment. What I didn't realize was I'm doing Positivity Thursdays, and I'm putting a bar in my parents' house. Like,
Pen with Eddie.
What? You Amish?
Yeah. I like chopped wood and fuck my cousin.
Okay. And so who brought you out?
It was my dad.
Ruin this family's life. Ruin this family's life in Red Dead Redemption 2. If you come to this place, you may find a family starting to build their house, except that your choices have real consequences on the life of this family. If you come back a few days later, you will see that while the children are working, gang members will come to try to eliminate them. And if you decide to do nothing and the family is eliminated, you will see that the house will become abandoned with the construction plans on this table. On the other hand, if you decide to save the family by eliminating all the gang members, and you come back a few months later, you will see that the father will come to you to ask for help. On the other hand, if you decide to give money to the father and you come back a few days later, the father will tell you to follow him into the house to give you a reward for your help. But strangely, if you come a few years later, you'll be able to see that the family will have left by selling the house to this couple with a guy garden. Never ruin this family's life in Red Dead Redemption.
You need wax.
when does the comedy stop?
Does this guy count his dad's old computer? And this is
Jess, how did you have masters? Yo, what's easy using a masters?
Constipation is very common. In fact,
Yep.
You feel me?
You know what? I'm pretty proud of stuff.
Some wife, Joanne.
Which car do you think could pass under the semi-truck, and how much does it cost to repair each one?
Alright, let's see it. Mercedes G-Wagon. Wow, that's a lot to repair. I would not repair that. I mean, it's a G-Wagon, so maybe Volkswagen Beetle. I don't even think Volkswagen Beetle is worth that much. Yeah. It wouldn't really hit the tire or whatever the Chevy 500. It keeps hitting with the tire thing. I don't know if it's better. That's the solution. Yeah, it doesn't
Which car do you think can pass on?
This kid challenged a Disney mascot. You ever wondered why airplanes sometimes appear to
Random interesting many players missing this game. Global.
This basketball is so much special. It's so special, and yeah. I mean, y'all know I was going to shoot a logo through after.
In a weird way, is there a benefit to being first out of the gate and knowing that you don't have to watch the scoreboard? What happens?
We do not care.
In a weird way,
No! No! God! No! God! Please, no! No!
see, I got these things locked in the house.
I could be a clown streamer.
Legendary Elden Ring.
What do you do when you find yourself staring into space? Dig deep. Get terrified. It's a phenomenon that's gained widespread attention in the past couple years due to the nature of our ever-evolving world. Things are changing, closing, being forgotten, and in their wake are derelict spaces that evoke a nostalgic comfort, yet our brains seem to strangely reject them. We feel like we've been there. We associate memories with images that we've never before seen, and for some reason, we become stuck in this trance of eerie fascination. This sensation is caused by liminality, a term deriving from the word liminal, meaning something that's occupying a position at, or on both sides of, a boundary or threshold, something that is within transition. With widespread interest catalyzed by subreddits, forums, and social media, the internet has served as a vehicle for sharing pictures of liminal spaces with others. This has effectively paved the path for various forms of media and online storytelling to capitalize on it, resulting in a myriad of personal stories, creepypastas, and indie games to play on the uncanniness that comes with them. Contrary to this relatively recent rise in online popularity, though, liminal spaces are nothing new. In fact, the concept of liminality has always existed among us. We've just never really noticed it. What is it about source maps that unnerve us? Is it the feeling of loneliness, the emptiness that comes with the very purpose of landscape? Or is it perhaps the fact that we can hear the sounds of other humans carrying out their lives in the distance, yet in our eyes, we're the only ones here? It's a funny feeling that, a feeling of confused anticipation as we await people that will never come. Contrary to the evidence around us, buildings, furniture within a cozy apartment, beer in the fridge, nobody ever will. Throughout the late 90s and into the 2000s, video games were playing on the trope of liminal spaces without even knowing it. Gary's Mod and Silent Hill are two that come to mind immediately, and while Gmod was more of an accidental case, Silent Hill was a bit more on the nose. Everything about it is interwoven with the very fabric of what makes liminal spaces so creepy to us. Isolation is always the forefront, with the player being left to explore a town that is years past its time. Hospitals, foggy streets, a theme park, a subway system, and even an apartment that you're unable to leave. Every single game is stuck in a bizarre state of transition. Nothing is bustling and alive anymore, but you sure as hell aren't in this place alone. The overwhelming sentiment that the space we're currently exploring was, at one time, the home to thousands of multiplayer matches. Yet, every moment, every player, us. And everything is projection of loneliness that's caught live in our brains, and when this loneliness is portrayed through art and even photos of reality, that is where the uncanniness sets in. You know, autophobia is something inexplicably and terrifyingly unique, and you never really know it until you're in it. At school after hours, at a hotel pool when no one's around, the very last one in a shopping mall. There are so many cases for situations like this, and the beauty of the internet is that we're able to share pictures and stories of spaces that terrify us together. Whether it's through gaming or reality, liminal spaces and their play on our natural fear of loneliness are terrifying, and regardless if we ever figure out why they're so eerie, it's irrefutable that they'll always persist in the dark depth of the internet. There's something of a reminder, a memento, a link into a world that is and will always be nothing but a burning, fading, and ever so distant memory. It's late at night, cozied up in your room watching creepy YouTube videos. There are seemingly endless, but there is one channel that I'd like to highlight tonight. It's called Florescita Dreams, and at first glance of their channel, we can notice the absurdity with their thumbnails. Their content is just as cryptic and heavily resembles various ARGs that we've encountered in videos past. It's in Spanish, but that doesn't discount how strange it is. At the end of the day, though, you might be wondering, why are we talking about this tonight? In the midst of scouring for topics to cover, I was sent an email by a person named Joshua. A link to this channel and their explanation of it states the following. After Spanish cartoons broadcasted in Mexico, there used to be a PSA showing missing people with their pictures and info on their last known whereabouts. One girl that showed up consistently was named Celine Delgado, and her only picture was of very poor quality, eerie, and her features were very vague. The actual video is in Spanish, but from what I understand, they suggest that she doesn't actually exist and was artificially made specifically to appear unsettling so people will better remember the broadcast. Interesting. The video in question was uploaded on September 2nd of this year and is titled Cinética del Patrón, Celine Delgado. Let's have a look.
Experience the extraordinary in the Pokemon trading card game.
Celine Delgado es un patrón de rostros artificiales. Los rostros son construidos artificialmente y simulan ser caras humanas, para generar emociones deseando generar estímulos supernormales.
Alright, it seems bizarre, but they're onto something. At the beginning of the video, Florescita seems to assert the hypothesis that the face of a woman named Celine Delgado, quote, kinetically fits non-human, AI-generated faces using the constant tau. They go forward to explain the uncanny valley and how facial reconstructions cause uneasiness in those that encounter them. Following this, they superimpose various faces with the resulting images off to the right, and among these, Celine's face is shown mashed up with various others. They display a few examples that are admittedly eerie, and ultimately argue that the identity of this Delgado is, as Joshua stated, artificial. Now, this is a lot to unpack, but considering that it's something that we haven't looked into prior, I found it worth considering. So, who is Celine Delgado, and how did she become wrapped up in this eerie shroud of urban legend? Throughout the 1990s, there was a TV segment run on Channel 5 in Mexico named Servicio de la Comunidad, or Channel 5 Community Service. As Joshua stated, it was a TV spot that ran between children's cartoons in hopes of spreading the word about various missing persons. The segments, contrary to what we're going to discuss later tonight, actually contained voiceovers giving various details and last locations of missing persons. And at first glance, these are mostly tame. When you really look into it though, the eerie nature of these TV spots stems from when you consider how Channel 5 handled the case of just one person, Celine Delgado. Over the years, her face would reportedly pop up in nearly every Servicio de la Comunidad segment, utilizing this exact same low-quality photo. There were times when I give a bit of background info about her, but the fact that she went missing on April 22nd and was just 18 years old.
Teresa Delgado López, de 18 años, extravió el 22 de abril en la delegación Álvaro Obregón.
But what cemented her case into the minds of thousands of people came nearly 30 years later.
Time for lunch, lunch, lunch. Time for a munch, crunch, crunch.
It goes without saying that the videos you're currently viewing are very obviously works of fiction. They were part of a stunt pulled by Channel 5 on their official Twitter page throughout 2019 and 2020. During this time, they were known to upload obscure, eerie videos to their account, only to delete them just hours later. It was an antic that ultimately catalyzed their rise to the Twitter trending page on numerous occasions, and also drives home the point that this real-world TV channel is not about messing with you. In the midst of these posts, though, came one that involved a familiar name. This one. Posted after midnight on the 20th of February 2020, we can clearly make out the name, Celine. Given that she was what many presumed to be an actual missing person that was constantly broadcasted on a kids' channel over the span of years, it gave birth to a new sort of urban legend that the Florida Dreams channel was entertaining. The hypothesis that this person is potentially not real. The major argument stems from a missing photo. Many have stated online that it appears common, basic, and fake. This, combined with the lack of any online record that has ever been found about her, has led to a breeding ground of online hearsay, creepypastas, and hoax videos to command the conversation about her. Now, when I stumbled upon this video in my research, I, among many others, had initially assumed this footage was real. Keeping in mind the other hoaxes and pranks that Channel 5 has played on its viewers, combined with the unconventional nature of these broadcasts being played on a kids' channel, I didn't doubt that they'd pull a prank like this to make her name stick with you. Ultimately, though, as is the case with many works of media online, this, too, was a hoax. But that doesn't discount the weirdness of the story. The way that Channel 5 has and is handling her name makes it seem like she's nothing but a tall tale. And unfortunately, given the nature of the internet, many have run with this notion. Regarding the real case of Celine Delgado, unfortunately nothing has ever come of it. She has, as far as anyone knows, never been found, and her case has sat that way for decades.
Delgado, contrary to the rumors online, is indeed a real person. The argument presented about her having a fake face just doesn't seem plausible. Her image is low quality because it was the 90s. Her record likely did exist, but was never digitized. The uncanniness of this image would be exponentially higher if this actually were fake, and it just doesn't make sense for a channel to slip a random fake person in their broadcast that would most likely never have been noticed back then. To me, Celine Delgado was a real person with a story that likely never received any sort of closure, and a person that is now forever wrapped up in the realm of urban legend. But, of course, that's just my conclusion. From the span of April 8th to April 9th, 2015, a devastating superstorm wreaked havoc on much of the central United States. 27 tornadoes ranging from EF0 to EF4 would touch down within the span of just 36 hours, resulting in immense devastation throughout Kansas, Missouri, Texas, Oklahoma, and Illinois. While most of them are rated as an EF1 or lower, by far the most destructive will impact a small rural town named Fairfield. Reaching wind speeds of up to 200 miles per hour, this 41-minute storm surge would ultimately become infamous as one of the worst natural disasters to impact the region in nearly 25 years.
Have you ever had a dream that you had
On the 30th of April 2015, a resident of Portland, Oregon would suddenly encounter strange flyers around the city. This sign simply asks if you've been having strange dreams, and if you have, to report them to a mysterious phone number. After posting their discovery on Reddit, attention on this quickly ramped up. However, it seemed to fade away just as rapidly. Interestingly, 5 years later, these flyers have returned, sparking interest once again. But this time, evidence has surfaced that the culprit behind these postings just might be linked to a modern-day cult. It was a warm summer evening. Off the heels of the kids' chat investigation, I was out clearing my head. It's safe to say that since then my email inbox has been blown up regarding other rabbit holes in the same vein. It's been pretty impossible to get to each and every one of you. But just know, I hear you. I see them. We will expose each and every sick website we can. I get a notification. This one isn't about kids chat though. It's got something to do with creepy flyers around Portland, which, now that I'm thinking about it, reminds me of something that gave me nightmares years ago. It was 2008. We were living in an age preceding the widespread social interconnectivity of late. The internet was clinging to the Wild West era by nothing but a thread. A mystery gripped the world, sending it spiraling into a years-long hunt for one man. This man. Have you ever dreamt of this man? Well, have you? For the better part of a year, a niche little website in an obscure corner of the internet lied dormant, untouched and virtually unseen. It told of a story involving a New York psychiatry patient and the strange dreams that they repeatedly have about a man with a strange face. The man's purportedly keen on providing life advice to the patient, although she's never met or laid eyes on anyone similar to him in her life. An odd turn of events for sure. The psychiatrist places their rough sketch of the man on their desk for a few days, and as it turned out, further patients were quick to notice. They too had seen this man in their dreams. And so it began. Brazil, Paris, Poland, Morocco, San Francisco, South Korea, Austin, Texas, La Habana, Cuba, London, Washington, Rome, and New Zealand. This man was everywhere. With nothing but a question, a face, a quick summary, and a website address, the flyer information was easily digestible and was short enough to remember it until you got back home. Having visited this site a few times during my teenage years, it's bringing back some anxiety. God, I don't know what it is, but every page, did they really have to make him stare at you on every page? I hate it, God, I hate it. Anyway, the website fleshes out the information presented on the flyer with a call to action to contact the administrators via email. That is, if you ever saw him. As it turned out, over 10,000 people did, and they shared their sightings, dreams, visions, whatever you want to call it. And with that, the widespread consensus was that this man was undoubtedly real. I mean, people have seen him, right? I hate to do this to you, but this man, he's not real. I know, I'm sorry. It was a marketing stunt. So why did I bring this up? Why am I discussing a 12-year-old internet phenomenon on a video about bizarre flyers around Portland? Well, like I said, I wanted to establish this foundation as a precursor to where we're headed, because of very, very similar phenomenons happening in the real world right now, and you just might have seen it without even knowing it. At 10:38 a.m. on the April 30th, a visitor by the name of Marcus Yallo would jump into the r/creepy subreddit, inquiring on an odd flyer that they'd stumbled upon in Oregon. Have you been having strange dreams? A real sign found in Portland. And the image attached, reading, have you been having strange dreams? The Willamette Valley Dream Survey is investigating a recent spike in bizarre, unexplainable dreams. If you've been experiencing any unusual dream activity, you can help by reporting a summary. Please call 971-258-1465 with a description of your dream. No other context was provided. No organization, no name, not even a deadline. Upon calling the number, which is surprisingly still active, you're merely met with this.
Thank you for calling the Willamette Valley Dream Survey. Please leave a detailed account of your dream after the tone. Transcripts or audio from your report may be duplicated in other media.
The post went on to garner a considerable amount of attention, racking up around 1.9 thousand upvotes and 277 comments. Responses were mostly comprised of personal accounts of bizarre dreams that Redditors were having shortly before this was posted, which made it seem that much stranger to them. Out of all of these, though, one reply would stand out. Posted by a user named Knox Harrington. It reads, "A quick Google search brings up the number for a children's German summer camp immersion program. Although, it does appear that the number may have since changed. The website is germansummercamp.org. No idea if this is an old number or some creepy death camp." Interest peaked. Heading over to the URL presents us with a considerably dated website run by Sophie Scholl, a German language immersion program. As of writing, they appear to be advertising open registration for their 2020 events from July 12th to the 17th, so it is still active. Digging through the website doesn't bring up any red flags either. The reviews that I was able to find about this camp all seem mostly positive, so I'm left curious as to why something as simple as a summer camp would be broadcasting interest in a cryptid dream survey. Eventually, I was led to an article by a website named Oregon Live, posted on the same day as Marcus's Reddit post. They discussed the exact same story, and mostly retraced the same steps that we did, with the exact same question. Who are the ones behind this? Interestingly, they were able to get in contact with a Sophie Scholl official that claimed that the number was a Google phone account that the school no longer uses. All we do is German. I can see why you're looking into this. That's one weird poster. Going by the camp's track record, I honestly believe it. It seemed like a stretch to think that they'd be the ones behind this as it was, and even digging through their website's archive shows us that the contact number listed doesn't match up with that of the flyer, even as far back as 2013. And just like that, we're back to ground zero. Interest in this strange flyer died down as most trends do, and we were all left with those two lingering questions. Why are these flyers here? And who in the world is behind this? On the 29th of April 2020, the Dream Survey mystery would encounter new life. That evening, a user named AliensDid9LL would jump into the r/non-murder mystery subreddits with an ear. Familiar question. Saw this strange poster this morning in Utah and looked up the survey name, and a poster with the same format was put up around Oregon in 2015. Anyone know anything about this? Accompanying this was a photo of a new flyer that heavily resembled the former. It contained the same question and the same description, but instead was advertising for a dream survey in Happy Valley, a nickname for the Salt Lake City region in Utah. Now, the resurrection of a years-old mystery for newfound clout isn't something unforeseen. Going into this, it's easy to pass this off as some sort of game jacker that might have encountered the Willamette Valley version. But one glaring flaw exists in that thought process. Shortly after posting this, a user named Juan Regis actually called the number and recorded their entire conversation. His post went forth to gain some considerable traction, but before he could give any sort of legitimate follow-up, both he and Aliens Did 9LL vanished. To me, this effectively nullifies the potential of someone doing this for internet clout. Why would someone write such a bizarre mystery before getting the hell out? Did something happen to them? Or was that attention intended to be directed not towards them, but somewhere else? In the mix of speculation, some Redditors recalled a few things that both Juan Regis and Aliens Did 9LL would claim over and over like they had a guilty conscience. Something by the name of Fatale. Whatever it was, both Juan Regis and Aliens Did 9LL made absolute damn sure that you knew that it was not Fatale. Let's check out Fatale. So it appears to me that they connect payphones across Portland to a Wi-Fi receiver, allowing anyone that utilizes one to make free phone calls. Apparently these things have automated menus with both specific phone numbers you can call and a free dial option if you'd like to call someone else. These phones effectively hide in plain sight, appearing to be nothing more than derelict relics of years past. Their websites, which admittedly provides more questions than answers, describes their service as the following. At Fatale, we believe in the preservation of public telephone hardware as a means of providing access to the Agora for everybody, and toward that goal, we're privileged to provide free telephone calls, voicemail, and telephone-mediated services. We do not judge the motivations of our users or who they choose to call. If they don't have someone to call, we can provide a presence on the other end. Denial of telephony services has long been a tactic used against undesirable populations, and our devices will counteract that. But more importantly, we will help to establish a new era of communication, one in which reaching out is not only desirable, but mandatory. To what extent are our interactions mediated by intelligent machines? Who's doing the talking, and we let them decide who we interact with and what constitutes appropriate topics of communication? We believe that the time has come to greet each other not with our heads down, staring at our hands, and begging for the permission of the minds that oversee our networks, but proudly, standing tall, with our eyes open and aware of our surroundings. We are primarily driven by the basic needs that we see on the streets every day, by giving something away that's cheap for us, but valuable to the recipients. But we hope that we can also build a Tower of Babel on top of that, a monument of telephones and switching networks and cascading psychological structures, which will give the community something else as well. Something we may not appreciate till it's forever changed us. Now, their mission seems noble. Provide phone access to communities that need them. The way they execute this, though, is an entirely different oddity within itself. A writer named Rory Elliott for a student newspaper named PCC Bridge actually went Fatale phone booth hunting in May of 2019. They recount their experience in an article, claiming that there's an entire world of bizarre mystical interactivity laid beyond each key. Stunned, we explored all the different ways we could travel the winding roads within the world of Fatale. By dialing 3 for the directory, we're given the option to call the mayor, the druid of Sisyphus Gardens, the apology line, the Willamette Valley Dream Survey, and more. Interesting. What in the world would a free phone service have to do with something as elusive as Dream Survey flyers? Given the fact that the phone number is matched to a single button in their automated menu, also gives rise to the possibility that these people either are the ones behind this, or know someone who might be. Curious for more, I looked up Fatale and Dream Survey on Google and stumbled upon a 2016 blog post also referencing this phenomenon. My first Fatale phone. There was no dial tone, just a recorded menu that includes the mayor's office, the 211 Social Services and Resource Finder, a general repository for apologies, and other options. I chose the Willamette Valley Dream Survey and reported last night's dream. No big deal, right? Just a random phone booth run by a startup company that has some sort of random dream survey mapped to its automated menu. Nothing to see here, right? Anyway, so far Fattel's my best bet. This is the only organization with a direct link to the surveys, so I have a funny feeling that they know more than they're letting on. In my attempts to get to the bottom of this, I spammed their Twitter begging for a DM, emailed their company address numerous times, and even joined their official Patreon just to get in contact with them. My God, please deal me back, Senpai. So I anxiously waited. Weird dreams involving my friend getting possessed, the Earth losing its natural rotation velocity and spinning out of control, and buildings snapping in half while I was in them kept me up consistently. And I felt like I'd possibly gotten myself into a rabbit hole that I shouldn't have. The days turned to weeks. I waited. I walked my dog. I waited. Played some New Horizons. I waited. I battled COVID. I waited. And I just kept waiting. They say that history repeats itself, and so that rings true again. I'd be lying if I told you that it doesn't eat away at me when I get this invested into a mystery that ends up dying. We've seen it before with countless OPs, except this time, that OP is Fattel. Come on, throw me a bone. Give me something. Send me a tweet, an email, prank call me with a private number. Give me something. But of course, I listen, I wait, I refresh, and I get nothing. When I try to check on Aliens Did 9LL or 1 Reddits, it's more of the same. While I'll admit, the brick wall looks nice from down here, the hindrance is a bit annoying. Reddit's keen on keeping this impenetrable barrier over accounts of days past, preventing me from gaining any sort of follow-up on what might have happened to them. I have to figure out what happens when you call, though, and so it appears that I'm left with no other option than to call the Happy Valley Dream Survey myself. Any attempts at contacting an organization in which you have no idea who or what they are should be met with caution. I found this ad for a burner phone from Walmart, and I know of the perfect hidden spot to give them a call. Perfect for this case. If they try any stupid shit, they're not gonna find me.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Do this.
Let's do this.
Alright. It's a good spot.
You think?
Yeah, I think so, man. I don't think they'll get track you or anything out here.
I think they'll find us out here, hopefully.
Okay. Let's see. Any last words?
So, I just want to say I enjoy the dreams that I currently have, and I'm really looking forward to having a long life of really happy, wonderful dreams that are not haunted by some mysterious figure that everybody seems to make references to.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's about to happen, but I'm actually kind of on pins and needles. I really want to hear what happens on this phone call.
This phone number made people disappear on Reddit. People vanish after calling this number. Apparently it's connected to a cult. Apparently. So, anyway, I got it dialed.
There we go. Okay, yeah. Got it right there, yep.
Alright, we got it dialed. Burner phone, out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep, this is literally in the middle of nowhere. This is about as far into the city as you can get into this, on this part of town.
Alright, you ready for this?
As ready as I am gonna be.
Alright, let's do it.
Don't want to see me drink.
So about 3 weeks ago, I took some ZQuil. I was sleeping, and I had a dream about I was in a parking lot at a mall in a futuristic vehicle, and it had one of those big infotainment screens, and it was twilight outside. I remember the parking lot was really full. There was a lot of cars and stuff. There were a lot of people in the mall parking lot that were leaving, and they were getting in their cars and all that, and just wrapping up the day. Anyway, it was twilight out, sun was going down, and it was really big. Like, it was way bigger than it usually is. Like, it was a huge sunset. Anyway, the infotainment screen actually showed the weather and the time of day, like where the sun was in relation to the earth, and it was kind of strange. I don't know why I dreamt that up, but I did. And out of nowhere, one of those like blinking warning signs popped up right next to the sun on the screen. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, that's really weird. And then all of a sudden, the earth started like the wind started getting crazy, and the wind just was blowing like crazy, and then the sun just dropped. Like the earth was like someone took the earth and spun it 180 degrees. And instantaneously it became like nighttime. Everyone was like looking outside, like what the hell's going on, and they were freaking out. And then I woke up. So that's my scary dream, or that's my strange dream. And yeah, thank you so much.
So I think the thing that freaks me out the most about all this,
dude.
What? They send you something?
They send you a message.
What's it say? Read it out loud.
Okay, so it says, thank you for leaving a voicemail and participating in the Happy Valley Dream Survey.
Okay. Dude, what I was going to say is what's really kind of making me nervous most about all this is how little information they give you on what it is you're signing up for. Like, that's what freaks me out.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen. Supposedly, they call you back at 3 in the morning, and if you answer, then you answer. If you don't, then they leave a voicemail or something. I think.
Well, we all know nothing abnormal happens in Utah, so.
Yeah, right. Anyway. Yeah, so apparently, they're going to call me back. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Alright, Jim got curious.
Yeah, I'm watching you do that. I really kind of want to see what happens here, so I'm going to try and dial this number. I need the number from you, though.
Well, it should be in the recent calls, so we just redial.
So this is the phone right here?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if I would say I'm nervous, but I'm honestly, now that you ask me that, like there's a little bit of anxiety, like a little bit of anticipation. So it's this number right here. That's weird. They said it was out of Utah. This looks like it's a Nevada number. Let's give this a shot here. Hi. times throughout my life. And it always seems to revolve around like swimming in the earth, which is really weird. Where, you know, when I was a kid, I had this dream, and it's happened a few times since then, where I'll be walking outside, I'll be in like a field, or like when I was a kid, I'd be on the playground at school, and all of a sudden I start seeing like whales and animals, like the dirt and the grass, just the earth is like the surface of an ocean, like it's got like waves on it, and I start seeing like whales and dolphins and all sorts of stuff kind of breaching the surface and kind of going back into water, and then I start sinking into the earth and I start swimming along with them. And there's never really been any kind of story to it, like anything that progresses. It's just one of those things that keeps popping in my head, like sometimes during dreams. Earliest time I can think of dreaming this was as a kid. I don't remember the last time I dreamed this, but that's probably one of the most vivid dreams that I have. It's just this weird thing where I'm swimming in the earth. So.
Rumor had it on Reddit that they'd wait to call you back at 3 a.m. Perfect, because you already know Ryan's always out. The span of time between when I made the phone call and 3 a.m. felt like an eternity. The only bit of correspondence that I received from him was nothing but a simple automated confirmation text. Wait for the big guns. Call me back, I just want to talk. Speaking of talking, I host weekly Discord calls as one of my perks for patrons, and it's one of the best things that I've ever done. Interacting with you guys outside of YouTube and on a more intimate level gives me life I never knew I had. All of you are awesome people, and I wanted to thank you for being here. If you're able and would like to join in, it's just $2 a month over at patreon.com/nextbo. Anyway, I was waiting, hyped up and ready. Look who it is. At first glance, I was quick to pass this off as a mistime. It doesn't seem like 9Go 5Jig bears any significance here. But I was wrong. You guys know me. I should have known better. I should have known better. It's Haitian Creole. What the... Now it appears to me that this bears some sort of connection to a mystery surrounding doomsday prophecies that are projected to take place in September of this year. I'm reluctant to label each Redditor here as a cult member, mainly because it could see a speculation as to what might be happening on that date. The mystery apparently began about 8 months ago. A Redditor and September 5th survivor would relentlessly spam cryptic messages across various subreddits, all alluding to a doomsday that they heavily believe in due to disturbing dreams that they've had since late 2019. You know, with enough persistence, you can get eyes on anything. And they did. The restaurant started out innocent enough, and with that, people pass them off as nothing but an ARG creator or edgelord trying to garner some internet attention. But then it actually started to gain traction. Now, I'll spare you the details and get right down to it. I feel that September 5th Survivor sums up their beliefs pretty well right here. The world is not ending. I've seen much talk of people saying that they think this is an apocalypse group and that the world will end on September 5th, 2020. I'd like to clarify that I've never said the world will end on that date or that an apocalypse is coming. That's not what I've seen in my dreams and visions. Many bad things will happen on September 5th. However, I don't believe the world will end entirely. An apocalypse suggests a large global event, whereas September 5th will consist of many individual events. It concerns me, because if people think this is yet another the end is nigh group, they won't take it as seriously. September 5th is coming. Many bad things will happen. Keep your eye on the 5. Stay safe and prepare. 24. To be honest, I can see where the confusion came from. With constant mentions of the number 24, a prophetic dream dimension by the name of the 6th realm, mass misfortune consuming the world on September 5th, and world enlightenment supposedly occurring on May 3rd of 2021, it's easy to get lost in the cryptic vernacular that comes with trying to get such a message out. But back to the core question. Why would some sort of prophetic doomsday cult be connected to something like a dream survey? So let's suspend our belief here. Let's take our doomsday conspiracy hats off, and let's recap on what we've been through, and how the hell it got us here. 2015. The Willamette Valley Dream Survey becomes a thing in Portland, Oregon. The mysteries met with intrigue, and some people went forth to call it. No follow-up, no cryptic text. Also in Portland, a company named Fatale providing free phone booths to underdeveloped communities with the Willamette Valley Dream Survey mapped to its automated menu. The company has unfortunately now returned my emails. 2020. The Happy Valley Dream Survey resurrects a half-decade-old mystery, but this time in Utah, and the mysteries once again met with intrigue. Both aliens did 9LL, and one Regis went forth to call it, and if my personal experience is anything to go by, then they more than likely received follow-ups alluding to September 5th, 2020, a pre-existing mystery that's been ongoing since late 2019. Interestingly, one Regis repeatedly claimed that it was not Fatale, but the thing is, Fatale wasn't even connected to this arc of the mystery. They're involved with the Willamette Valley version. With this in mind, while I'd love to entertain the possibility of this being some widespread growing conspiracy about an impending doomsday apocalypse that's been predicted since 2015, I don't believe that this entire thing is under the same mystery umbrella at all. I'm heavily leaning on the postulation that either September 5th Survivor or someone involved with the September 5th, 2020 mystery stumbled upon the original post about the Willamette Valley Flyers. They realized that it was a mystery that had its time and faded into obscurity, and so they went forth to jump on the opportunity, make their own version in Microsoft Word, and post them around Happy Valley. The fact that the phone number responds in such odd increments of time adds more weight to the potential that there is a person or multiple people behind that phone number sending these cryptic texts out in order to get people to look at the translated version of the dates, encounter the September 5th mystery, spread it around like wildfire, and lead the masses to believe another hoax. Now, I'm no prophets, but I highly doubt anything's going to happen on September 5th. I'm honestly not even entirely sure why they're doing a dream survey, aside from riding the hype of a prior mystery. To be honest, this arc of the rabbit hole isn't exactly the most exciting or captivating one to me. Portland's is different. That's the real one. I fell into this mystery because of it, and it's continued to perplex me to this day. Unfortunately, I can't pinpoint who's behind this or why they're doing it. Patel never followed up. One Regis and aliens did 9LL are gone, and I have no idea where else to look. It's like I'm jumping through hoops to get any sort of lead here, and it's kicking my ass. I do know one thing though. Patel's silence is deafening. I'd love to give him the benefit of the doubt regarding my messages, but nah, I know they've seen it. They're just ignoring it. If their Tumblr is anything to go by, it's safe to say that they've been involved in unique art projects before, and this very easily could be one of them. With that in mind, I really think they're connected here. It would just make sense. even if this is nothing but a circumstantial theory. It looks like only time will tell. Someone's out there. They want your strange dreams. The question is, will you give it to them?